let's track first the performance of the NDA. How many people think the government is doing a good job? What percentage of people think the government isn't doing a good job? At this moment, 59% of the respondents in the Mood of the Nation poll in August 2023 are telling C-Voter that they like what the government is doing. 19% say they are dissatisfied. In January this year, 67% of the respondents had said they were satisfied with the government's performance. So from there, it's down to 59%. But if you go back, say, to August 2020 and take a look at the numbers, it's largely been in the 60s, fell in August 21 into the mid-50s, January again, late 50s, 59% follows the rough line. Basically, the key point to look at over there is that there is a 40% gap between those who think the government is doing a good job and those who are dissatisfied. So, Rajdeep, on the first point, it seems people largely seem satisfied with the government. Yashwant, you want to kick off by giving us your initial thoughts?
Yes, I mean, over all these years that we have been doing MOTN and the trackers, I think, Rahul, overall satisfaction has been pretty much in sync with the line of the popularity of the Prime Minister and everything in one go, barring that one bump that you have seen, that post-second wave of COVID. That is precisely where we have seen the numbers going down and dissatisfaction going up. But apart from that, it is more or less in the same line. It has gone down slightly bit, and we have seen there is a direct correlation of inflation with that. Whenever the inflation pinches up, these satisfaction numbers slightly come down and dissatisfaction slightly goes up.
Rajdeep, to keep the needle moving, let's take a look at the biggest achievements and biggest failures of the Modi government. When the question was asked, what do you think of as the biggest achievement of the Modi government? Interestingly, the data seems to suggest that 21% of the respondents felt the handling of the COVID crisis was the number one achievement of the Modi government. This has been the Achilles heels of governments world over, and that seems to come out to be the number one achievement of the Modi government. Coming in at number 2 is the fact that people believe that this is a corruption-free government. At number 3 is the revocation of Article 370.
You know, when I look at these early numbers, what it suggests is that there was an inflection point for Prime Minister Modi. The challenge for him was August 2021. That's the one time, Rahul, in the Mood of the Nation, and we can stretch this back not just to term 2, but term 1, where Prime Minister Modi actually seemed to have a significant dip in popularity. What we've seen now, satisfaction levels have come down from 67 to 58. So there is some cause for worry. However, it is still relatively healthy, doesn't suggest anti-incumbency having set in. Anti-incumbency would set in. Let's look at August, interestingly, 2013 of Manmohan Singh as Prime Minister, when Manmohan Singh's performance was rated below 50%. Prime Minister Modi's performance has been in and around 60%. At its peak, it's gone to 72%. Therefore, when people say COVID is the big achievement, in an ironical way, COVID was Prime Minister Modi's downturn after COVID 2.0, the second wave. But it's also become the tipping point, because once vaccination started in 2022 in particular, the Prime Minister's popularity has risen again. So overall, I think that August was, Rahul, the turning point.
Let's take a look at the biggest failures of the Modi government, and I want to bring Raj Chingappa in to talk about this, because when the question is asked about the biggest failures, 25% of the respondents say price rise is the number one failure of the Modi government. Unemployment comes in at 17%. Economic growth, or the perceived lack of economic growth, comes in at 12%. Price rise at 25%, Raj. Is that just an immediate concern, or do you think building up to the 2024 elections, that could become a bigger issue?
If you track our polls for the last, say, 6 of them, they show price rise as well as unemployment as the biggest issues, serious issues that are there. What is remarkable, and that's what I think we need to understand, is that normally a government at this stage, in its 10th year, and this kind of economic reaction, dissatisfaction, should have made their numbers plummet, their popularity plummet. Instead, you are seeing that the Modi government's performance ratings are at 59%, down 10%, but still in the 10th year, when, as Rajdeep was saying, anti-incumbency should have set in, and as it happened in Dr. Manmohan Singh's case in 2013, it hasn't happened. So we need to understand the phenomenon that and let's also not forget that if he calls it the inflection point, there were three major crises that happened during this period. COVID itself, the pandemic and the havoc it caused, the economic distress it caused across, and the Ukraine-Russia war, which caused inflation and a shortage of grains. Through this, any other leader would have been, trembling, and the ratings would have fallen. He has held. So the larger point, I think, is that people believe that even though there might have been setbacks during COVID, he's the man for the job. They believe that, he's been sincere, he's tried hard to do what he is doing, and that there is no other alternative to him. That so far, he has handled all these crises well, weathered the storm, and therefore you see the support that the government is getting.
Nalin Kohli,
And when I
I
say
want to
he,
talk to
Prime
you
Minister
about
Modi.
the
Yeah.
most important issues facing this government, issues that people believe will determine voting behavior. 24% said price rise was the number one issue. 24% said unemployment was the number one issue. Poverty came in at 8%. At this moment, the government is trying various things on the issue of onions, tomatoes to bring prices down. How confident are you that building up to the 2024 general elections, that's the big political litmus test, price rise would be a lesser factor? Is that one of the key concerns that you would have while you're strategizing in terms of the BJP's approach for the elections, Mr. Kohli?
Thank you, Rahul. I think let me start with a preliminary point. There is a consistent position of popularity of Prime Minister Modi and his government, which broadly is in the late 50s, early 60s, goes up to 72% as per your mood of the nation. Now, interestingly, there are two factors here. There's leadership and performance. Normally, in the last maybe 20 years, 25 years that we've all been on television together, we note that these two sometimes are separate. Leadership is sometimes discussed separately and performance separately. But we have a unique situation since 14, and which is lucky for the BJP and the people of India are voting for that consistently, is that in Prime Minister Modi, you've got the leader who's also a performing leader. His government in terms of it, because it's a Modi-driven government, is clearly a performing government. And it's across. I mean, I can talk of several things, whether the fact that from number 10 in the economy, global economy, we are at 5, whether we are at 50 crore bank accounts almost, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan, which is financial inclusion. Poverty, which is at about 8%, perhaps because 80 crore people still receive free rations every month, which started in COVID but has continued. It's a huge program. Or Ayushman Bharat, probably the biggest insurance-based program for health anywhere in the world. So, I mean, there's so much more I can say for the middle class, others. So let's pause for a minute. Yes, what you're just pointing out, price rise, and then you refer to unemployment. Obviously, these are causes of concern. But is the government working in that direction? Yes. That's the answer. This is not a government abdicating from its responsibility. This is not a government that does not understand that if something is going wrong, we need to find a solution. So it's a government with its ear to the ground. And if you ask me how confident I am, given not just the numbers, but given the performance, given the fact that this government is at it all the time, I think 2024 should, subject to, of course, the voters deciding that, because we are a democracy, should be a smooth walk for the BJP and under Prime Minister Modi's leadership.